This is the Week on Word, a podcast featuring a roundup of the most interesting, informative, and entertaining interviews from Word Radio. You can listen to Word Radio anywhere, anytime on WURDradio.com and the Word Radio app. Give us a play and download it today. In this episode, Isaac Hayes III, music producer, tech innovator, and son of the legendary artist Isaac Hayes, joined the Midday Break Room with Tiffany Bacon to share how his social media startup fan base is transforming the creator economy. And Leigh Owens, Education and Advocacy Director for the Pennsylvania Prison Society, appeared on Evening WURDs with Dr. James Peterson to expose the overcrowded and inhumane conditions inside Pennsylvania's prisons. But first, CNN anchor Abby Phillip joined Wake Up With WURD with Solomon Jones to discuss her debut book, A Dream Deferred, Jesse Jackson and the Fight for Black Political Power.
Joining us now is Abby Phillip. She's the anchor of CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip. She has a new book on the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Abby, welcome to the show.
Hey, Solomon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
To talk to you.
I know. It's good to talk to you, too. I've been on your show. Now you can get to be on mine.
I know. The tables have turned.
Yes, they have. So Jesse Jackson, I mean, he has been a very interesting figure for a very long time. He was at the 1963 March on Washington. He was there in Selma in 1965. He was on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel after King was assassinated. He was there in the audience in Chicago when Obama came out to speak after winning the presidency. And he ran for the presidency twice himself. I mean, this is a guy who was there for like so many significant moments. Why did you choose him to write about?
Yeah, I mean, he has been kind of this ever-present person, I guess, in our consciousness. But I do think that this chapter, the political chapter that he had, may have been one of the most significant and one of the least understood parts of that very, very long history. I mean, Solomon, you know, when Jesse Jackson ran in the 80s, he was really dismissed as an unserious candidate, as somebody who could never be president, who was just running a campaign to make a point. And it may have actually started out that way. But what I argue in this book is that it took a while to really understand what the impact was, but there was lasting impact. And in fact, right now, we may be at the point in our politics where a lot of the things that Jesse Jackson was talking about, economic populism, merging it with social justice, having a message that that appeals to a wide swath of Americans based on their shared desire for better quality of life, basic stuff like that. Those are the things that you're seeing a lot of Democratic politicians trying to figure out how to talk to Americans on. And he was ahead of his time in that respect. And that's not even to talk about the fact that he literally changed the rules of the Democratic Party that made it even possible for outsiders like Barack Obama or Bernie Sanders or others to have a shot at the nomination. So he was a more significant political figure than I think people give him credit for.
One of the things he was able to do was to put together a coalition. And you saw Obama use that coalition politics to great effect when he came in. How did Jesse Jackson lay the groundwork for that type of coalition politics that worked so well for Obama and really hasn't worked that same way for Democrats since?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the first presidential candidates to explicitly talk to all these different types of people. He went to San Francisco and met with Asian American civil rights activists who were fighting against anti-Asian discrimination. He brought Arab Americans into the political process at a time when they were literally being kicked out of the political process. Candidates were being forced to return donations. He spoke directly to Black Americans and said, you know, we fought for the right to have access to the ballot box. Let's now talk about using that right to gain power and leverage. He spoke to gay and lesbian Americans. He talked about the HIV/AIDS crisis when nobody wanted to touch that issue. So he did it in a way that made everybody feel seen. But I do think one of the big differences is that he wasn't just pandering to these groups. He literally said to them, we're all part of the same American family. Let's come together because we're fighting for the same thing. And I think that kind of message that doesn't feel like you're just having different messages for different people was the key to his success and the key to Obama's success, too.
Do you think that Jesse Jackson drew from the messaging that King was embracing toward the end of his life when he was reaching across racial lines and saying, look, we're poor. Let's talk about this poor people's campaign. Let's talk about the fact that we're all going through the same thing. Do you think Jesse Jackson drew on that?
He absolutely did. And in fact, when Dr. King was assassinated, it was Jesse Jackson who was responsible for the economic piece of what Dr. King was trying to do. He had Operation Breadbasket in Chicago that ended up spreading nationally. They went to Washington and did the Poor People's Campaign. He's always been really focused on this economic piece because that was the unfinished business of Dr. King. When Dr. King was in Memphis, he was fighting for the economic rights of sanitation workers in that city. Yeah. And Jesse Jackson has always been convinced that this is the part of our democracy that the powers that be, so to speak, don't ever want equality in. They don't want everybody to feel like they have a piece of the economic pie. So he's been focused on that. And that was a key part of his presidential messaging as well.
So Jesse Jackson, of course, was somebody who was full-time civil rights organizer in 1965 when the Voting Rights Act was passed. He was there marching in Selma. Marching from Selma to Montgomery. How do you think Jesse Jackson looks at this moment now when the Voting Rights Act that he worked so hard for and so many others gave their lives for is under attack?
Yeah, I've had, honestly, many a conversation with him in recent years about where we are as a country and the erosion of rights and this sort of backlash moment that we're in about diversity and even, frankly, democracy. And I think he was deeply troubled by it. I mean, he told me so. I think he felt that the country was at a sort of a critical point where we had to figure out a way to talk to one another about the values that he spent most of his decades in public life fighting for. I do think, though, that Jesse Jackson understands that cycle of progress, and you take two steps forward and one step back. Yeah. I mean, that happened in the 70s and the 80s when, there was a sense in the early 80s. There's a scene in the book where I talk about how Ronald Reagan actually came to see Jesse Jackson in the early 80s to basically maybe try to get an endorsement. Yeah. And then a couple days later, went and did a rally in a sort of hotbed for the KKK, sending, what Jesse Jackson thought was a really strong signal that he was sending, messages to the worst of American society, the racists who were still around and are still around, frankly, but were still around in the 80s. And so this was decades after Dr. King, more than a decade after Dr. King was killed, and yet still they were pushing back on this stuff in the 80s. So he gets the backlash, and that's why he really has never wanted to kind of move into retirement. I mean, he's in his 80s. He's in his 80s right now, and he still thinks about this stuff, still is active on this stuff, even while his health is failing. So I think he still thinks that there's a lot of work left to be done.
Yeah, we're talking with Abby Phillip. Her debut book is A Dream Deferred, Jesse Jackson and the Fight for Black Political Power. I got to ask you this last question before you go, Abby. The Supreme Court is looking at the Voting Rights Act. It was already scuttled part of it in 2013. They're looking at it now, have already heard arguments. Where do you think this is going, and what can we learn from Jesse Jackson in terms of how to fight this attack?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Solomon, the reality is that we have to contemplate that Voting Rights Act is going to be further eroded. And they might very well open the door to explicitly gerrymandering or creating states where there is virtually no representative for Black Americans to pick their candidates of choice. And they might do that under the guise that it's not about race, it's about partisanship. But I think that's going to be the reality, and there are going to have to be other strategies that are put in place to figure out how to ensure that there is proper representation, and probably at some point, maybe not anytime soon, because I think we're going in the opposite direction, but gerrymandering reform. I mean, I think everybody needs to realize that this is headed toward a really bad place. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that we're going to get to that point anytime soon.
Abby Phillip, I want to thank you for joining us this morning on WURD to talk about your new book, A Dream Deferred, Jesse Jackson and the Fight for Black Political Power.
You're listening to The Week on Word.
Why is Word important to the community?
It matters to me because I was only successful truly through Black media. If we're just keeping it all the way 100, like if it wasn't for Black media, you wouldn't know who a music soul child is. Please support your local Black media, all Black media, because this is the media that supports you.
We are giving voice to the community, and without the community, there will be no word. We are one and the same, and it is not a game. WURD.
This is The Week on Word, a podcast highlighting the top conversations on Word Radio. Make sure you look for and follow WURD Radio on social media. Up next, Isaac Hayes III, music producer, tech innovator, and son of legendary artist Isaac Hayes, joined the Midday Break Room with Tiffany Bacon. I'm really excited to talk to my next guest. And not only is he a songwriter and a producer, he is the founder and CEO of Fanbase, a social media platform that allows creators to monetize their content from the start. And he's part of a musical legacy. Welcome to the program for the very first time, Isaac Hayes III. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I am breathing on schedule. How are you?
Same here.
Yeah, I know that's right. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Midday Break Room. I greatly appreciate it. And I want to dive into all of the things, but I first want to dive into Fanbase because I do follow you on social media. I mostly see your content on Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I mostly see your content on Instagram. So let's talk about Fanbase. How did you decide to start your own social media platform? Please share that story with our listeners and viewers today.
It was honestly just out of a desire to build an infrastructure that Black people can own rather than just be users of social media, because these platforms become very, very, very valuable. Hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars now with something like Meta. And so I wanted to build something where our culture could still participate in being creative and fun, but on the back end, we could own, people could own, individuals could own, like us, rather than just the same regular group of VCs that continue to build social media platforms and lock out Black wealth.
I love that. And how long did that process take you from concept to now it's a reality?
Oh, I mean, from concept to reality was probably about 6 months, 7 months from going from the idea to actually building the platform. Mm-hmm. I was very, very lucky and blessed to have some great developers involved in helping build the platform. So it wasn't that long till we got to that point. But I spent my own money building the platform from the very, very beginning.
That's crazy. That's crazy and amazing at the same time, because often, when we have people on the station, not just this show, but on the station, talking about how folks can be entrepreneurs and how you can get things started, there's a lot of different conversation about the getting started part. And too many people get stuck in the idea and needing to have everything lined up before you can actually execute. You said you were lucky enough to have folks kind of in your pocket, but what advice would you give to someone who's like, I have an idea too. It might not be a social media platform, but how can I get started even if I don't have all those great people around me right now?
Well, I mean, I think just start from the very beginning. I was by myself, when we first launched the company. I then sought out, developers, but I always say start your idea, even if it isn't like your best idea. Just starting is the part, because if you try to figure out how you're going to get everything together and make things perfect, you'll never start. And so the majority of a lot of the functionality that's on Fanbase right now today, we did not have when I first started. It's so much, the platform has evolved so much over time. And so I think that's important, is just getting started.
All right. I love that. So I want to get started with the mechanics of Fanbase. So it's set up so that creators can monetize the content from the start. How does that work on your platform?
Well, I want to take the word creator and change it to users. It's really it's really just a social media platform, the same of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X Spaces, like audio chat. It's really just a social media app for anybody to use. I think the interesting part is that I give the optionality for people to monetize their content via subscription. So it's free to download, free to use. You can post any type of content that you want to post, just like you would on these other platforms. But people can tip you for the same content that you post. So everything that you post on Instagram or TikTok, people can actually tip you, show you love for it as money. And then if you want to go the step further and you are and consider yourself a real content creator, then you can put that content behind a paywall, but in a community environment. So you're not just putting content behind paywall sites that you have to leave the social media platform. And then when people are done looking at your content, they come back. So I wanted to bring it all together in one place.
I love that. And a lot of creators do struggle with algorithm changes and visibility. So how does that work on your platform? Is that like a big thing that your users have to be concerned about?
No. We don't suppress content. We really route everything based off your following initially, and then recommendations, because we're launching a new recommendation engine in about a week that focuses a lot on all of the behaviors that you take on the platform and the things that you like and stuff like that. So all these other platforms like, Instagram and TikTok intentionally suppress your content because they don't have a way to make money. If you have the same visibility that they charge brands for, then they can't make money, because the brands would come to the users and run commercials on their pages and run ads on their pages. So that's why, if you have, 1 million followers or 2 million followers on these platforms and your videos are only getting 70,000 views, it's because they can't let your content reach 2 million people, because therefore brands will recognize your reach and pay you to access your reach. Not just you as a creator, but the fact that you can reach 2 million people. That's the real value.
Very interesting, very smart. And for anyone who's out there, regardless, break it down based on, say, maybe age groups and interest. So if you're someone who's older, you're on Facebook, you know how it works. You're on the other platforms and all that. You understand how it works, but you're curious about this. Maybe you have like a hidden talent, or, maybe you've been making music in your basement for years, but that 9 to 5 is calling. And so you didn't actually step out and become a music star or producer. How can someone in that category get the best bang out of your platform?
Well, one, I would say use the Facebook that you're on right now. I think most people find success, or the majority of success found in using new platforms is leveraging your following on existing platforms to bring people where you want them to go. Right? So if you're on Facebook, then tell people that you're on Fanbase, but continue to use Facebook to tell people that you're on Fanbase, or use Instagram or TikTok to tell them where you are. Then it's just a matter of putting your content behind a paywall or just sharing your content. And then people want to tip you for it and show love for it. So it's really, really cool. It's not hard. I think people find this mental block around becoming a content creator in any way, shape, or form, but it's simply just the action of saying, I'm going to create something, pay me for it, right? Or show me love for it. If you want to optionally support me, right? And that's really the cool part about it, is you want to put yourself in a position of having support, but you want to create that funnel that brings people over to the new platform.
Love it. And for, say, someone who's much younger, are there certain things that you would encourage a younger person who has very little experience? They're just getting out there. They just have a whole bunch of ideas and energy, and that's it.
I think just use the platform, because one of the things that actually we recognize is that the best ideas come from the users. And a lot of innovation has always come from Black culture. A lot of the things that we see in social media now, like DMs and certain functionality, just came from the users. And so young people always innovate. So it's always great to have young people take their ideas, come to platforms, ask us what they want, and us build those tools that make the platform a lot more fun for what they're trying to do and accomplish what they're trying to do. But especially, young people, I'm saying you don't have to worry about young people. They're going to figure out how to get to the bag by way of subscription or tipping. You see that now with streaming and stuff like that, streamers and gamers and all that. They're going to find, I have no problems. I have no concerns about the young people, because they're going to find a way to get to the bag through this social media era.
I know that's right. But I was just, curious, especially for any parents who are out there who are like, I forget the young lady's name. There's a young creator that I see, and she does like funny videos. I don't know. She should be hired by like Disney or something like that. And she has this one of a Little John song. And so she's in these different characters and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
And she's like, snap your fingers. And she's doing all that. Right. So I can see like maybe a parent who has this very energetic, very creative child that they're like, okay, we'll give you your own little TV show on the interwebs, but I want you to be safe. I want to do this right, set it up right. What's the advice for the parent who's like, yeah, I want to set my child up, but I don't want to put them in no foolishness, but I want to set them up right so maybe they can monetize this creativity that they have?
Well, first and foremost, I think the age limit, the minimum age requirement to be on Fanbase is 13 years old, which is pretty much par for all the other social media platforms. But parents can create platforms or create pages for their children and then monitor those pages since they're underage, which is really good, because then, you have a control and oversight on what's going on your children's profile and their content until they get of age and you feel that they can actually do that on their own.
Absolutely love it. I see some of our listeners who are communicating with us via Facebook. They're on Fanbase already, which is awesome. What do you hope to see happen with Fanbase in the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, first things first is we're having a very viral moment right now with the app getting downloaded. So we're trending on the App Store. And that really helps a couple of things. Number one, it just pushes the app up the App Store charts. So people that are out here, we're asking everybody to download Fanbase right now, create a profile, tell your friends to do so. And then the reason that we're here right now is from the community of people that have actually invested in Fanbase. And so over 4 rounds of equity crowdfunding, we've allowed the users to actually have ownership in the platform. And so we have a round that's closing December 17th. We're asking everybody to invest in Fanbase and take equity in the platform. That's really another part that I don't think we talk about enough, is that these platforms, when used and populated by Black culture, wind up being worth billions and billions of dollars. And we have never, ever created a vehicle where the community of users can own it. And so that's what Fanbase has done. We have over 24,000 investors. We've raised over $23 million. And our round right now is open, and we're closing at $17 million, and we're at about $13.5 million. And so first, I tell everybody to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in the company, and you actually have equity. This isn't a donation. This isn't a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. This is real equity in a tech company. That's first and foremost. And then continue to use the platform, because next year we have a lot of cool things rolling out. Like I said, our recommendation engine is coming out towards the end of the year. We're simplifying the way that you post content on the platform. There's a lot. We've got another cool feature coming, by the way, at the end of the year. I don't want to announce it. I was about to slip up and mess up and announce it, but I'm not going to do that. But
can really we get exclusive though? When you're ready to announce it, can we get an exclusive?
Look, and just if you know what my shirt looks like, if you know what my shirt looks like, it's It's a feature that a lot of people have been asking for. It's like, man, I wish my screen was I wish my screen was darker. So I'll just say that. So I think people will get the idea of what we're working on.
Oh, my best Eddie Murphy. Aha. Okay. Yeah. I love it. Give us that again. So the window for investing is closing. When and where can people go to make the investment?
December 17th. But I want to close around way before December 17th. Because, again, we're about 4 million away from our goal. So I always say, like, there's thousands of people that listen to your program. If 4,000 listeners invested $1,000, we close our round today. That's how it works. So it's like, these things can go viral. So the raise closes December 17th. The minimum to invest is $399. There is no maximum to invest. And everybody that invests gets a verified profile badge that shows that they actually own equity in the company. So that blue badge that you get, you get a green verified badge, a blue or a gold, depending on what level you invest at. But I want people to know that there were believers in this company from the very, very beginning. And those individuals are the ones that have equity in the company. They stand out as early adopters to what we're doing.
Amazing. This is really, really amazing. And thank you for bringing this to the community and providing this opportunity, because who knew in 2005, 6, 7, even in 2000, because my producer, who's younger than me, he asked me questions about social media and things like that back in the day. And I'm like, yeah, we had MySpace and Black Planet. And that was it.
That's it.
And that was it.
As far as Black owned or founded social media to achieve even the level of where Black Planet is, it's been 25 years. Fanbase is like the only other platform within that time. And I think that's how critical this moment is, because number one, you're seeing all these platforms get acquired and then turned into propaganda engines. That's one. Yeah. Two, they're actually altering and changing the information you see about your own race, your own community, your own people. And we're not doing that over there. I'm not for sale in the sense of saying that I'm going to be a propaganda engine. I support free speech. I want people to be able to say what they want to say. And I want people to see the truth. I know there's so much AI content generated. I'm more focused on building a platform that's focused around community, us getting our stories out, us having fun, us engaging with one another. And then that allows us, again, to continue to build the platform and make it stronger. So that's why investing in this is so important as well. Because again, if you look right now, Facebook market cap is probably $1.9 trillion. And there's probably very, very few African-American Black people that sit on the cap table of that company and have ownership. And that's how you create generational wealth. The fastest way to grow wealth in this country is going to be through technology, owning technology platforms. And this is a platform that everybody listening right now can own.
Absolutely love it. What a wonderful way to close out the conversation, even though I have one non-fan base related question I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Because you halfway brought it up.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on AI music, AI music stars?
I'll say this. I think AI in itself can be a tool to assist in the creation and speed up the processes. But being a tool of creation, I'm not very fond of it at all, especially when it comes to content like music and video, because then what's real anymore? We can render, whatever we want. We can render voices or render videos. Then where is the true magic and the true gem in finding someone that can truly sing as well as someone that is generated an AI video? Or where's the true magic in someone that can catch this amazing football pass that no one has ever done before? But if you can render it and make it look fake, reality is going to matter so much moving forward. And I'm focused on the real, right? I think that's the most important part of what we're talking about, because we have to live in the real world. And social media keeps us connected in ways, and I don't want to contaminate that with AI.
Love it. What a wonderful way to put a pin in it. Tell folks where they can go. Well, I guess any of the app stores carry fan base. Are there any that do not?
No, yeah, we're on Apple Play. We're on Apple. We're on Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. We're trending right now. We're telling everybody to download the app because this is a transition and a migration to a platform that we can use and we can own. And then tell everybody to invest. One more time, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest and get your shares and equity in Fanbase right now.
I love it. Isaac Hayes III, thank you so very much for joining us on the Midday Break Room today, and much success to you continue. This is the Week on Word. Represent your favorite station in style. Look for Afrocentric tees, hoodies, tumblers, notebooks, mugs, and more. Just click the Shop tab at wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about Black Talk Media.
You gotta look good.
You're listening to the Week on Word podcast. To learn more about our programming, simply visit wordradio.com. Our last conversation for the episode features Leigh Owens, Education and Advocacy Director for the Pennsylvania Prison Society, in conversation with Dr. James Peterson on Evening WURDs.
Very excited to welcome back to this program Mr. Leigh Owens, who is the Education and Advocacy Director at the Pennsylvania Prison Society, who's been traveling across the state, visiting county jails, letting eligible incarcerated voters know they can and should vote on November 4th and beyond. Here to talk about this phenomenon and this information, its impact on incarcerated individuals. And welcome back to the program, Mr. Leigh Owens. Leigh, welcome back to Evening WURDs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson. It's great to be here again.
It's great to have you back. For folks who maybe didn't hear our first interview and don't understand the mission of the Pennsylvania Prison Society, please tell us about the work that you all do there.
Absolutely. So the Prison Society was founded in 1787, over 200 years ago, by this nation's founding fathers, in Benjamin Franklin and Benjamin Rush, which is extraordinary considering that, there were prisons back then, A, but B, even then they understood the need to check in on incarcerated individuals post-incarceration. While there are wars of the state, they understood it was important not to just lock them up and throw away the key, but to make sure that neighbors were going in to check on their incarcerated neighbors. So we work today in 2025 to do the same thing, right? To help protect the health, safety, and dignity of all incarcerated people throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And part of doing that is ensuring that individuals who are incarcerated and eligible to vote know that they can and know that they should and why they should.
Leigh, I do want to talk about the voting piece. It's super, super important, but I also want folks to understand that we have a Department of Corrections in the Commonwealth that's, I think, by most standards, very well funded. But some of the journalists that you all have been working with and different work have exposed some of the, to be honest with you, and to be frank, terrible conditions and terrible things that go on with those who are incarcerated. For first, for many of us who don't have a relative who's been incarcerated in the Commonwealth, or if you're not a nerd like me who's been studying and doing advocacy in this work for over a decade, you kind of, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And I don't want to terrorize folks with some of these stories, but help us understand, how the Pennsylvania Prison Society is really standing in the gap of sometimes some really inhumane conditions in our prison systems.
Absolutely. And to be clear, the Department of Corrections has one of the top 3 expenditures, most expensive entities in the Commonwealth.
It's $4 billion, right? I mean, we pay it's $4 billion. We pay, and that's more than a lot of other states, folks. So you can check that. We pay a premium for our DOC.
That's exactly right. And also, to be even clearer, Pennsylvania is I want to say the number 1, don't quote me on that, it could be number 2, but it's definitely top 3 most incarcerated state in America. Right. And so
that's like, because we're competing with Louisiana.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. With states that you guys might think have archaic, like prisons like Angola, we are in competition in terms of our incarceration rates right here in the Commonwealth.
That's exactly right. And so this work is so important because once a person is incarcerated, a lot of times, like you said, out of sight, out of mind. If you don't have a family member that's incarcerated, if you haven't ever visited a facility, a correctional facility, you just don't know. And so part of my work is to make sure that everyone does know, that legislators know. I take legislators to the prison so they can do walkthroughs. And what they see is astonishing, Dr. Peterson. I've had legislators come with me to county facilities, not even talking about state facilities, and have literally cried, been in tears once they saw the inadequacies and the conditions that so many Pennsylvanians, mostly Black and brown, are having to be subjected to. And also, just so you guys understand, your audience, that most of the folks that are incarcerated in Pennsylvania and really nationwide aren't going to be there for, say, the worst of the worst offenses. And we're talking rape, right? We always think about those kind of really...
Most of them are there for nonviolent crimes. If we're just being honest, most people incarcerated are incarcerated for nonviolent crimes.
That's exactly right. And so, you know, they're coming home, right? 90% of these people are coming home. So as we're subjecting them to these conditions, we're actually institutionalizing them. You know, we're not getting them the help that they need. We're not handling or treating the drug addiction. We're not showing them how to get gainful employment, because a lot of folks, you know, kind of slip through the cracks as it relates to the education system, right? So we're not handling it on the front end. So then the back end is where I come in to make sure that once they're there, you know, that, you know, they have access to healthcare. You know, that's probably the number one thing we hear from incarcerated folks, is the struggle to access healthcare when you're incarcerated. And that could be from having to have major surgeries to being able to continue to have life-sustaining medications. And so that's a fight. And it could be even something smaller, like when you first go through intake, they may take your cane, right? But you need the cane to get around. Or there's a gentleman I know of right now that's incarcerated in a state facility who can't see. He can barely speak. He cannot walk. This man is so sick, he is at the mercy of other incarcerated folks in that facility to help him live, just to get through the day, right? And so when you also consider the fact that a lot of that folks, when you have to go see a doctor, you have to pay for it. There's a medical copay. And I would say that is one of our top legislators.
How do they have wait a second. As someone who's I'm just trying to understand the logic of this, Leigh. This doesn't seem logical to me. Where are they supposed to get the money? They are not gainfully employed. Even if they have some programmatic employment, they're getting pennies on the dollar there. How do they pay how are they expected to pay for their own medical care?
Dr. Peterson, a lot of them can't, right? So there are medical conditions that will go unchecked, right? And so, you know, they get money into their account for working, but as you know, it's literally cents per day.
Yep.
So what we're seeing is individuals that are having to make very, very hard decisions. Am I going to go to the doctor and pay this copay knowing that I didn't get enough to eat because there's so many inadequacies within the food? So should I spend that money on commissary so I can supplement my meals, or should I use that money to see a doctor or fill my prescription? God forbid you don't have a family member or you know, friends on the outside that are putting money on your books. I mean, you don't have a shot, right? And so these are the things that we fight against. We want to make sure that they have access. We want to make sure that folks are being treated fairly, right? And so we know part of the culture of incarceration, in many cases, is very, very sort of this thin line between having rights and really what the 13th Amendment says, which is that we're going to abolish slavery, except for the crime, except.
So that's what we call the dirty little secret of the 13th Amendment.
That's right. That's exactly right. So essentially what we're fighting against is this sort of back and forth notion of an individual that's incarcerated. Do they deserve the health, safety, and dignity that we all deserve? That's the mentality that we're fighting against, because there are so many bad actors that don't believe that this population does, right? And so the prison society stringently believes that this is a fundamental human right: health, safety, and dignity, regardless of the infraction. As you're awarded the state, while you're in state custody, you deserve to have these things. And so, you know, we have a great relationship with the Department of Corrections. The county facilities aren't under the purview of the Department of Corrections. So the county facilities are under the purview of the county administration, the county government. So you'll find Dr. Peterson, that a lot of the county facilities really are in much worse shape than the state facilities. The state facilities, the folks there are much more settled. They know how much time that they have. They have things, they have activities going on mostly. The county facilities
they're more transitory. They're more transitory, so they can.
That's right.
Yeah.
And some of them have to do a skid bid. They might have to do a year or 2 years, right? But during that time, there are virtually no activities. The conditions in those facilities, you'll see pest problems, like really, really bad pest problems, where folks have to put their uniforms at the crack of the door, at the bottom of the door, so that the insects, the roaches, the rats, the mice don't get into their cell. And so, we'll report this to the Department of Corrections. We'll work with the administrations to address them. Sometimes they'll put a Band-Aid on it. Sometimes we'll have to escalate our advocacy. So if we can't come up with a solution at the DOC level, then sometimes we'll have to escalate it to, say, higher up to a legislator. So if we're talking about an SCI or a county facility, then we might want to talk to the legislator that represents that legislative district. And so there have been situations where, based on what we know is happening in a county facility or SCI, we'll take the legislator that represents that district so they can see for themselves. Because when they come with the prison society, they know that they're getting the real deal. The administrations, the Department of Corrections is not able to guide them and show them the things that they want them to see. We show them the things that they need to see, right? And so we have that sort of unfettered access to show folks, like, this is what you need to know. Your constituents are coming here, right? Your constituents' parents, you know what I mean? Like, they have family members that are incarcerated. And so, the last thing I'll say about the conditions is that one of the successes we found was, we did about a year and a half, about 2 years worth of research on the food and nutrition inside correctional facilities. And, shocker, we found that it was not good. The inadequacies were very, very, very stringent, right? There were, particularly due to COVID era restrictions where the residents weren't able to go into the mess halls anymore. They closed them. And so the food was being delivered to the cells via a cart. So we saw, we were hearing stories of folks being served food cold or molded. There were situations where, like I said, based on the research, where, folks were getting, just not able to get the daily vitamins and minerals that you essentially need to survive and to thrive. And the other thing we noticed about the food was that the times that they were being served were so spread apart. The breakfast was so early, 4 or 5 a.m. In some houses, lunch is at 10:30, 11 a.m. and dinner's between 3 and 4:30. So by 8 p.m., Dr. Peterson, I know I'm hungry at 8 p.m.
Even when I have dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm going, 7, 8 o'clock. A lot of times is when I'm going back for seconds, right? But they can't do that. So what you'll see is that folks are trying to supplement the lack of just really being able to get enough food to eat with the junk food that they get from commissary. Another thing we saw, particularly during the pandemic, was the price gouging around the commissary items. I mean, the prices were so inflated. We're talking about, 400% markups for ramen noodles, just that as an example. And so, we fought against that. They did stop, but that was something that folks had to deal with for however long, a year, 2 years, whatever. And so if we aren't going into these facilities to see what's going on, who's going to know? Who's going to check these actors? Nobody.
This is why we love having you on, Leigh, to expose some of these issues that we don't think about on a daily basis. Let's talk a little bit about voting before we kind of dive into the work you've been doing around the Commonwealth to make sure that inmates know they can vote. Well, remind us all of what are the laws about voting versus for folks who are incarcerated? Who loses the right? Who retains it? How does that all work?
Yes, thank you for that question, because it's probably the number one source of misinformation for the carceral community.
Yep.
So if you have ever been incarcerated, but you're home, you did your time and you are home. I don't care if you have 89 felonies. however many misdemeanors you have, you can vote.
Period.
Now, period, end of discussion. And so if you're incarcerated, usually at the county level, and you're serving time for a misdemeanor or you're awaiting trial, then you can vote. You can do it through no excuse absentee ballots, or you can do it through just registering. If you think you'll be home by election day, you register and then you just go into your polling place on election day. But with the mail-in voting, you can do that while you're still incarcerated. You request your ballot, they mail it to you, you fill out the ballot for who you want to vote for, and you mail it back. It's all free. So if you're currently serving time for a felony conviction, serving time for it, not already served time, but you're still incarcerated for that felony conviction, you cannot vote.
Okay.
You cannot vote. And so if you're home and you're in a halfway house, you can vote. If you're, on parole probation and you're home, you can vote. I had a gentleman contact me last year who told me that his PO wouldn't let him vote. He was on house arrest. The PO told him if he walked to the polling location, he was going to get violated because he can't vote because he's a 9-time felon. I said, well, I don't care how many felonies you have. You're home. You can vote. I had to email. Well, first I called him, didn't answer. I had to email the PO and cite statute so he could be allowed to vote. So my question after that was, how many more parolees are being denied access to the franchise because of misinformation? And I don't want to think that it's malicious. I want to just say that
ignorance.
No.
Well, sometimes ignorance is malicious, Leigh, as you know. So as you're going around the Commonwealth and informing those who are incarcerated about what their rights are when it comes to the franchise, what are some of the things that the administrators at the SCI or county level or administrators at the DLC, what are some of the things that they can do to help you out? I mean, I'm sure they're not willing partners in the work of the Pennsylvania Prison Society, Leigh. I know that. But I'm saying, what are the things that they could be doing to help facilitate? Because here's the thing, and I say this all the time, but it's worth saying all the time. Democracies only move in one of two directions. Either they're becoming more inclusive and more democratic, or they're not.
That's right.
So are the institutions, what can the institutions be doing to be partners with you and the Pennsylvania Prison Society in this effort to make sure that those who are incarcerated know what their rights are and have some facilitation of their capacity to vote?
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I think that one of the main things they can do is make it available. Tell them they can ask them if they want to vote, And so when I go to the facilities and I give my spiel, the next question I get from folks is, well, how do I do it? So I have to literally call over the activities officer or the CO on that block at that time during that particular shift and ask them to get this person a voter registration application or a mail-in ballot application. They're just not mentioning it. Now, some facilities you'll see, they'll put posters on the wall. The best facilities will have a video playing in the background continuously, letting folks know of their right to vote. That's only in a handful of county facilities, but most facilities, they don't talk about it. Now, I know that during intake, and I only know this because 20 plus years ago, I was incarcerated. And so I can tell you that during the intake process, a lot of times that's when they'll ask you if you want to register. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that on the worst day of my life when I'm being booked or being, filtered
processed for,
exactly, that voting is on my mind.
No, survival is what's on your mind.
Survival is on my mind. Making sure that I'm okay is on my mind. So my thing is, we need to approach this from a perspective of like, why should you even care? We know that the system has not worked for us. That's why you're here. It has not worked. But what we want them to know is that, and this is what I say to them. I'll tell you exactly what I say to them. If they start seeing an influx of mail-in ballots coming from county facilities across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, what's going to happen? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to make news. And the story is going to say this: there's been a so-and-so increase in the number of incarcerated voting in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Next thing that's going to happen.
I can't wait to see that headline. Headline.
I'm working on it.
I know you are. I can't wait to see it.
And the next thing that's going to happen is you'll start to see elected officials or candidates courting that vote. You'll start visiting prisons and jails and talking to folks about the issues that matter to them. That's how you build power. That's how you say, okay, you guys don't want me to have a seat at your table. Well, you know what? You go ahead on and keep your table. We're going to build our own table. And if anyone in Pennsylvania wants to be elected, you have to go through the carceral community. You have to go through us.
And we're talking about what are the numbers here? We're talking about hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about county facilities, we're talking about eligible voters between 25 and 30,000 people on any given day.
Wow.
Now, I want you also to know that there is a national movement across the country to end felony disenfranchisement for voter access across the board. So if we do that, then in Pennsylvania, we're talking about 65,000 votes.
That can change almost any election, the complexion of any election at the Commonwealth level. Yes.
Well, people don't realize that a lot of these elections, some of these elections, I've seen it happen more times than I'd like to admit, but they're being decided by hundreds of votes,
which is literally a couple of votes per precinct when you map that out.
Absolutely.
Like literally, this one, anyone who thinks that your vote doesn't matter, you just don't have you're not paying attention to the information.
That's right.
These elections over the course of our lifetime, the last several elections at the local and national levels, there have been plenty of them. Look at the last senatorial election here in the Commonwealth, right? They are decided by a couple of hundred votes. That means it's 1 or 2 votes per precinct.
That's
when you
right.
think about a statewide piece.
And I always say, and other folks say it, like, if our vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying so hard to keep it away from us. We wouldn't see states doing this redistricting.
Use your logic, please, people. Hello.
Impact, right?
You wouldn't see tens of millions of dollars coming into Pennsylvania about state Supreme Court from external sources if your vote didn't matter.
And Dr. Peterson, I've been saying that these elections are some of the most important ones for the carceral community because we're talking about judicial races. In Philly, we're talking about the district attorney's race. I mean, there is no bigger player, okay, for the carceral community, for anyone that's ever been, arrested, incarcerated for a substantial any period of time, or put in handcuffs, right, or even had a conversation with a cop that wasn't positive.
Yeah,
in the district attorney.
That's right.
Then you have the judges. They're the second biggest player, you know, and so. As an incarcerated person, as a member of the carceral community, I say to them, if you can vote out the judge that gave you an unnecessarily high prison sentence, why wouldn't you want to do that? It's about accountability because we know that there are judges. We've seen it. We've seen judges use their platform, right, to harm different communities by using jail, arrest as a weapon against people that don't deserve it. It happens. It happens way too often. And so knowing that these offices are elected, that should make our constituents run to the polling locations to go vote for some of these judges or against other ones. And the final thing in terms of what we're trying to see here is we're looking at the electorate as a springboard into the world of advocacy. We're trying to build power, but like I told you earlier, I'm formerly incarcerated, right? And so I want to see more formerly incarcerated folks running campaigns, doing digital, doing communications, going into legislative offices in different capacities, right? Because that's how we'll be able to address all of the inadequacies that lead to mass incarceration. And that's a lot of things. And I don't want to get into all those things, but there are so many things that we can deal with that lead to mass incarceration, that lead to the inadequacies within the prison systems, right? And so most of these things we can legislate, but we have to get the leaders in these offices that have the will to do it. And we also have to change hearts and minds because right now, if you're in certain legislative districts and you try and take a stand to address some of these inadequacies, you may even take a political hit from your constituents who don't believe that these individuals deserve health, safety, and dignity. So we have to actually change people's minds that are voters as well. We have to change people's minds so that they see why this is important.
Yeah, that people who are incarcerated are also human beings. Leigh Owens, Education Advocacy Director, Pennsylvania Prison Society. The Pennsylvania Prison Society and this conversation is part of Every Voice, Every Vote, a collaborative project of the Lenfest Institute for Journalism with lead support provided by the William Penn Foundation. You can learn more at www.everyvoice-everyvote.org. The editorial content here is created independently of the project's donors. Leigh Owens, Education Advocacy Director, Pennsylvania Prisons, our brother. I can't wait to have you back on. I love and support the work that you're doing. We want to get you back on as soon as possible to continue the conversation and to bring some sunlight to the work so that people can understand the value of it and its significance in these complicated times. We appreciate your time and appreciate you taking time to join us here tonight on Evening Words.
You're listening to The Week on Word.
Hi, this is Dr. James Peterson, the host of Evening Words. Tune in to Evening Words Monday through Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. for critical analysis of news, culture, and arts that resonate with our community. You won't want to miss our weekly segments of critical commentary with Cousin Chris, guests from the Center for American Progress, and dialogue with our local council members, plus other specialty segments full of education, entertainment, and engagement. Listen to Evening Words Monday through Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. only on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Week on Word. Let's stay connected. Sign up for our newsletter and listen to us online at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.